He was my boss. Cold, untouchable, dangerous. But the more I tried to stay away, the more I sinned. A stolen kiss in his office. A night we should never have shared. And then, a lie that could destroy everything. Stay with me until the very end, because the secret you'll hear tonight will leave you breathless. And if you love stories of forbidden passion, dangerous love, and shocking twists, then don't just listen. Join our world. Hit subscribe to Lily's Romance Tales, turn on the bell, and never miss a moment of desire, betrayal, or destiny. Now, let's begin. My boss. My sin. Chapter 1. The Forbidden Attraction. My name is Amelia Hart, and until that moment, my life had been painfully ordinary. I was 24, freshly out of graduate school, and hungry for a chance to prove myself. Landing a job at Blackwood Enterprises felt like my big break. The company was one of the most powerful in the city, whispered about in financial circles and feared in corporate boardrooms. It was sleek, ruthless, and untouchable, just like the man who owned it, Damien Blackwood. Even before I met him, I had heard stories. Rumors whispered in late-night conversations at the office, or in hushed voices over coffee breaks. Some called him a genius, others called him a tyrant. He had built his empire from nothing, they said, turning failing businesses into gold. He was sharp, cold, and impossibly ambitious. And now, he was my boss. On my first day, I told myself it didn't matter. I was there to work, not to get involved in gossip. I wore my best suit, pinned back my hair, and practiced my professional smile in the mirror. This was my fresh start, my chance to climb the ladder. Nothing and no one was going to distract me. But the second Damien Blackwood walked into the room, all of my promises to myself began to unravel. It happened in the main conference hall. The air was already heavy with nervous tension. New employees like me were lined up along the back wall while the senior staff murmured among themselves. Everyone fell silent when the doors opened, as though someone had pulled a string and cut off all sound, and then he appeared. Damien walked in with the kind of presence that could silence an army. Tall, broad-shouldered, his dark suit cut to perfection, he carried himself with a power that seemed effortless. His eyes were colder than winter storms, steel gray, sharp enough to slice through any pretense. His jaw was set, his expression unreadable, and yet, every gaze in the room bent toward him, as though he commanded gravity itself. I had never seen a man like him, and the truth was, I couldn't look away. He barely acknowledged the people around him, speaking a few clipped words to his board before taking his seat at the head of the table. But in that brief moment, his eyes swept the room and landed on me. It was only a second, maybe less, but it was enough. My breath caught in my throat. His gaze was direct, sharp, like he was stripping away every layer of who I was. My carefully rehearsed smile faltered, and for a heartbeat, it felt like he could see straight through me. Then it was gone. He turned his attention to the reports in front of him, and the spell was broken. But I couldn't forget it. The way he looked at me wasn't casual. It wasn't curious. It was dangerous. The rest of the day passed in a blur of instructions, paperwork, and introductions. I tried to stay focused, but my mind kept drifting back to him. He barely spoke, yet every decision, every glance, carried weight. People moved quickly when he commanded, voices dropping into hushed tones whenever he entered the room. He wasn't just respected, he was feared. By the time the office began to empty for the night, I was exhausted. My coworkers left one by one, lights dimming across the floor until I was one of the last few still at my desk. My head ached from the constant strain of trying to impress, and yet, for some reason I couldn't explain, I didn't want to leave just yet. Maybe it was the pile of unfinished work in front of me. Or maybe it was because part of me wondered if I would see him again. The office was quiet at night, the kind of quiet that made every sound echo louder than it should. The tapping of my fingers on the keyboard seemed too sharp, the hum of the fluorescent lights above too harsh. I told myself I'd finish one last file, then leave. That was when I heard it. Footsteps. Slow, steady, measured. They grew louder, closer, until my pulse quickened in response. I turned my head, and there he was. Damian Blackwood stood in the doorway of my office. His jacket was gone, revealing the crisp white of his shirt, sleeves rolled up just enough to expose strong forearms. His tie was loosened, a single button undone at his collar. He didn't look like the polished, untouchable CEO I had seen earlier in the day. He looked human, untamed, dangerous in a different way. "You shouldn't be here this late." His voice was low, smooth, with an edge of something I couldn't place. Authority, yes. But something darker, too. I was just finishing up some files, sir, I managed to reply, though my voice betrayed me with its slight tremor. His eyes lingered on me, unreadable. "You don't know what kind of men stay in offices after dark." The words sent a chill down my spine. Was it a warning? A threat? Or something else entirely? For a heartbeat, silence stretched between us, heavy and charged. I felt it everywhere, in the way my breath quickened, in the way my body refused to move. It was as though the air between us had shifted, crackling with something I couldn't name. And then, just as suddenly, his phone rang. The sharp sound broke the moment. Damian pulled the device from his pocket, his expression hardening as he answered. "No," he said, voice clipped and cold. "I don't care what it takes. Handle it tonight. Make sure no one finds out." My blood ran cold. I froze, unsure if I should leave, if I should pretend I hadn't heard. His tone was lethal, every word soaked in authority and threat. Whoever was on the other end of the call was receiving an order, not a request. I shifted slightly in my chair, and his eyes snapped to me. For a moment, he just looked. His gaze pinned me in place, sharp and knowing. My heart hammered so loudly I was certain he could hear it. He didn't speak, not until the call ended with a sharp click. When he finally lowered the phone, his eyes never left mine. "You shouldn't be here, Amelia," he said, his voice softer now, but no less dangerous. Curiosity is a dangerous habit. My lips parted, but no words came. I couldn't answer, couldn't even breathe. His gaze held me captive, a storm of something I couldn't define swirling behind it. And then, as quickly as it had begun, the moment was over. He stepped back, his expression unreadable once more. "Go home," he said simply. I nodded, my legs unsteady as I gathered my things. My mind screamed at me to run, to put as much distance as possible between myself and the man standing before me. And yet, deep down, another part of me whispered something far more dangerous. I didn't want to run. As I walked past him toward the door, I felt his eyes on me, heavy, unrelenting, as if he was memorizing me, piece by piece. I didn't dare look back, but the heat of his gaze followed me long after I left the room. That night, I lay awake in bed, staring at the ceiling as the city lights flickered beyond my window. Sleep refused to come. My mind was a whirlwind of questions, doubts, and dangerous thoughts. What had that phone call been about? What secrets was Damian hiding behind those cold gray eyes? And why, despite every warning sign, did my heart ache with something that felt alarmingly like desire? I should have been terrified. I should have promised myself to keep my head down, to avoid him at all costs. But as I replayed the way his voice wrapped around my name, the way his gaze lingered on me like a brand, I knew the truth. It was already too late. Damian Blackwood wasn't just my boss, he was my sin. And sins always come with a price. Chapter 2. His Dangerous Eyes. The morning sunlight spilled across my room, warm and golden, but it couldn't chase away the unease that had settled deep inside me. I hadn't slept well. My dreams had been restless, filled with fragments of Damian Blackwood's face, his sharp eyes, the power in his voice. The way he had looked at me as though he could see every secret I carried. I sat at my small vanity, brushing my hair with trembling fingers. I told myself it had been nothing, just a late night, an overheard phone call, a warning. But deep down, I knew it wasn't nothing. It was everything. He wasn't just my boss anymore. He had become a shadow over my thoughts, and I couldn't escape him no matter how hard I tried. By the time I arrived at the office, the air felt heavier, denser somehow. People moved quickly, their footsteps brisk, their voices lowered. Something was wrong, and everyone seemed to know it but me. I caught snippets of conversation as I walked toward my desk. Leak, deal, contract, confidential. Each word buzzed through the air like a wasp, sharp and unsettling. When I asked Sarah, the woman who often worked beside me, what was going on, she only gave me a quick shake of her head. "Don't ask questions, Amelia," she whispered. "That's rule number 1 if you want to survive here." Her words struck me. Survive? This was a workplace, not a battlefield. And yet, as I looked around, I saw the tension in my coworkers' shoulders, the fear in their eyes. Before I could make sense of it, the atmosphere shifted. Conversations stilled. Eyes turned toward the glass doors at the far end of the floor. Damian Blackwood had arrived. He walked with the same commanding stride I had seen the night before. His tailored suit perfectly fitted, his presence filling every corner of the room. But this time, it wasn't just his power that unsettled me, it was the way his eyes searched the office, sharp and assessing, as if he was hunting for something. When his gaze landed on me, my stomach knotted. It wasn't casual. It wasn't fleeting. His eyes locked on mine, unblinking, and the weight of it sent heat rushing to my face. I felt exposed, vulnerable, as though he could read every thought swirling in my head. Then, just as suddenly, he looked away, speaking quietly to one of his executives before disappearing into his private office. The rest of the morning dragged. I tried to bury myself in paperwork, but my mind kept circling back to him, to that look, to the whispers, to the knowledge that I had overheard something I shouldn't have. At noon, just as I was beginning to calm myself, my phone rang. The screen flashed with a number I recognized instantly, his office line. I hesitated before answering, my throat dry. "This is Amelia Hart." His voice was smooth, steady, and commanding. "My office, now." No explanation. No room for refusal. I stood, my legs trembling as I made my way across the office. I could feel the eyes of my coworkers on me, watching, whispering, pitying. My heart pounded harder with each step. Inside his office, the atmosphere was different from the bright, open floor outside. The blinds were half closed, dimming the light, shadows stretching across the polished wood of his desk. Damian stood by the window, his back to me, one hand in his pocket, the other resting on the sill. "You stayed late last night," he said, his voice even, though there was a sharpness underneath it. "Yes, sir," I replied carefully. "I had some files to finish." He turned slowly, and his eyes locked onto mine. The intensity of his gaze was enough to freeze me in place. "And in the process," he asked, his tone smooth but dangerous, "did you hear something you shouldn't have?" My heart lurched. I swallowed hard, trying to keep my voice steady. "No, sir. Nothing important." A faint smile tugged at his lips, but it wasn't kind. It was sharp, predatory. "Lying doesn't suit you, Miss Hart." The words cut through me. Heat rushed to my cheeks, and my pulse thundered in my ears. He knew. Somehow, he knew. He stepped away from the window, circling the desk slowly until he was standing only a few feet from me. His presence was overwhelming, his cologne sharp and intoxicating. I wanted to step back, but my legs refused to move. "You should be careful," he murmured, his voice low and rich. "Curiosity is a dangerous sin." The air between us was charged, heavy with something I couldn't name. Fear, yes, but also something else, something I didn't want to admit. Before I could speak, the door opened. His assistant entered, pale and breathless, clutching a folder to her chest. "Sir, it's about the deal. There's been a leak." Damien's eyes narrowed instantly, his expression darkening. "Handle it," he snapped. "But sir," she stammered, "it's someone inside the company." The silence that followed was suffocating. Slowly, Damien's gaze turned back to me. My blood froze. His eyes were no longer just suspicious, they were cold, calculating. I left his office moments later, my hands shaking, my legs weak beneath me. I tried to walk quickly, to keep my head down, but I could feel it, the weight of his eyes following me, even through the glass walls of his office. The rest of the day passed in a blur. I typed reports, answered emails, smiled at my coworkers, but inside, my thoughts were spiraling. If he truly believed I had something to do with the leak, what would he do to me? When the clock finally struck 6, I gathered my things and left as quickly as I could. The evening air was cool against my flushed skin, but it did nothing to calm the storm inside me. That night, lying in bed, I replayed everything. His words, his gaze, his warning. Curiosity is a dangerous sin. I told myself to stay away from him, to stay invisible, to keep my head down. But even as I whispered the promise into the silence of my room, I knew it was useless. Damien Blackwood was already inside my thoughts, consuming me like a flame I couldn't put out. Just as I was finally drifting into uneasy sleep, I felt the vibration of my phone on the nightstand. I reached for it, expecting a harmless message or email. But when I opened it, my blood turned cold. There was no name, no number, just one message, written in bold black letters. "You're being watched." My heart stopped. Chapter 3. The Anonymous Threat. The message glowed against the darkness of my bedroom. "You're being watched." At first, I thought it had to be a prank, a sick joke from some spammer who had typed the wrong number. But as I lay there, staring at those words over and over, a deep chill spread through me. Because this wasn't random. Not after Damien Blackwood had looked at me like I was guilty. Not after his assistant had whispered about an insider leak. Not after he had warned me that curiosity was a dangerous sin. I set the phone down, my hands trembling. My tiny apartment suddenly felt smaller, the shadows heavier, the silence louder. Every creak of the pipes, every hum of the fridge felt like an intruder hiding in plain sight. I locked every window, checked the door twice. But when I crawled back into bed, I couldn't close my eyes. That message burned behind my eyelids, whispering like a curse. "You're being watched." By morning, exhaustion dragged at me, but there was no escaping the dread coiled in my stomach. Still, I forced myself to dress for work. What choice did I have? Rent didn't pay itself, and jobs in this city weren't easy to come by. When I arrived at the office, the tension I'd felt yesterday hadn't lessened, it had grown. People avoided each other's eyes. Conversations cut off when footsteps approached. The whispers were thicker now, like smoke curling through the building. I reached my desk and froze. On top of my keyboard lay another envelope, white, unmarked, just like the one yesterday. My throat went dry. I glanced around, but no one was looking at me. Or maybe they were pretending not to. With shaking fingers, I slid it open. Inside was a single sheet of paper. No letterhead, no signature, just 3 words written in black ink. Don't trust him. The world tilted beneath me. I clutched the paper tighter, my pulse hammering. Don't trust who? Damien? Or someone else? I shoved the note into my bag, forcing myself to breathe. But before I could recover, a shadow fell across my desk. Miss Hart. I jerked my head up. Damien Blackwood stood there, his gaze sharp and unreadable. He was close, too close, his presence pressing against me like gravity itself. Yes, sir? I stammered. My office, now. The words sent a shiver down my spine. The same command as yesterday, delivered in the same cool tone. But today, there was something harder in his eyes. Suspicion. Calculation. I followed him through the glass doors, aware of every pair of eyes on us. His office door closed behind me with a soft click that felt more like a lock than a sound. He moved behind his desk, setting down a folder, then fixed his gaze on me. You've been with this company for 3 months. Yes, sir. You're efficient, quiet. You don't stand out. Until now. The way he said it made my skin prickle. Until now. I don't understand, I whispered. His lips curved slightly, though it wasn't a smile. Someone inside my company is leaking information. Someone close. And suddenly, you appear where you don't belong. You stay late. You overhear conversations. And now, my competitors know things they shouldn't. Fear clamped down on my chest. I swear, I haven't told anyone anything. His gaze was piercing, searching my face for cracks. Then why? He asked softly, leaning forward. Do you look so afraid? Because of the note in my bag, because of the message last night, because of him. I opened my mouth, but no words came out. My pulse thundered, and I knew he could hear it in the silence. Finally, he leaned back, his expression unreadable. I don't tolerate betrayal, Amelia. Remember that. The sound of my name on his lips sent another shiver through me, half warning, half promise. He dismissed me with a flick of his hand, and I escaped his office with trembling knees. The rest of the day was a blur. I couldn't focus, couldn't breathe. The notes, the suspicion, his eyes, I was drowning in it all. By the time I left the office, the city streets were already alive with neon lights and honking cars. I hurried home, desperate for safety, but when I reached my apartment door, I froze. The lock was scratched. My hands shook as I slid the key in, heart pounding. I stepped inside, flipping on the light. Everything looked normal. The couch, the tiny kitchen, the stack of unpaid bills on the counter. But something was wrong. I felt it in the air, heavy and thick, like someone had been there, watching, waiting. I checked every corner, every closet, even under the bed. Nothing. But the unease only deepened. I was being pulled into something I didn't understand, caught between a dangerous man and an invisible threat. That night, I placed a chair against my front door, as if that flimsy barrier could keep the shadows out. Sleep was a stranger. My mind replayed his words again and again. Curiosity is a dangerous sin. And just when I thought exhaustion might finally win, my phone buzzed again. With shaking hands, I reached for it. Another message, anonymous. This time, it wasn't a warning. It was a picture of me, sitting at my desk in the office, taken from behind. The caption below it made my blood run cold. He already suspects you. Chapter 4. The picture that changed everything. The picture glowed on my phone screen, sharp and damning. It was me sitting at my desk in the office, my head bent over paperwork, completely unaware that someone had been watching. The caption beneath it was worse than the image itself. He already suspects you. I dropped the phone onto the bed as though it had burned me. My hands trembled. My breath came too fast. Someone had been close enough to take that photo. Someone inside the company. Someone who knew exactly how to torment me. I clutched my knees to my chest, rocking slightly, trying to calm the panic flooding through me. This wasn't just a warning anymore. This was proof. Proof that I was being stalked. Proof that I was being set up. But why me? I was no one. Just Amelia Hart, an ordinary assistant in a massive company. I didn't have power. I didn't have influence. I didn't have anything worth targeting. Except, I had overheard Damian Blackwood. Was this about silencing me? Or was it about turning him against me? I buried my face in my hands. Every path led back to him. His suspicion, his gaze, his warning. And now this photo. Whoever was sending these messages wanted me to believe he was dangerous. But didn't I already know that? Sleep was impossible. I lay awake until dawn, staring at the ceiling, the weight of invisible eyes pressing down on me. When my alarm finally rang, I felt like I hadn't slept in years. Dragging myself into work, I expected the office to feel ordinary, mundane, normal. But the moment I stepped inside, I knew better. The tension was thicker than before. People whispered at their desks, exchanged glances that stopped when I walked past. My skin prickled under their stares. It was as though everyone knew something I didn't. And then he arrived. Damian Blackwood strode through the glass doors like a storm, his suit sharp, his presence commanding. His eyes swept across the room, cold and assessing. When they landed on me, my chest tightened. For one heartbeat, I thought he might look away, but he didn't. His gaze lingered, heavy, piercing, as though he was searching for answers in my face. Then, without a word, he turned and disappeared into his office. I sagged against my chair, my pulse unsteady. I couldn't survive much more of this. Around noon, a message appeared on my computer screen. It wasn't an email. It wasn't even in my inbox. It flashed across my monitor like a ghostly warning. He will destroy you. My blood ran cold. I glanced around wildly, but no one was looking at me. How had it gotten there? Who had access to my computer? My breath came faster, panic clawing at my chest. I shut the screen quickly, but the words were seared into my mind. Destroy me. Before I could recover, my desk phone rang. I jumped so hard the receiver nearly fell from my hand. It was his voice, Damian's, deep, smooth, inescapable. My office. The walk down the hallway felt like a walk toward judgment. My palms were slick, my throat dry. I knew I should stay calm, act professional, but fear coiled in my stomach. His office was dimly lit again, blinds half drawn. He was seated behind his desk this time, a folder open before him, but his eyes lifted the moment I entered. Sit! I obeyed, my heart hammering. He studied me for a long moment, silent, his fingers steepled beneath his chin. The air between us grew thick, heavy, unbearable. Finally, he spoke. Someone inside this company is betraying me. And every time I turn around, Miss Hart, your name seems to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. My throat closed. I swear, I'm not involved. His gaze sharpened. Then why? He asked softly. Do you look guilty every time I look at you? Because of the messages, because of the notes, because someone was setting me up to look exactly that way. I opened my mouth, but no words came. He rose slowly, walking around the desk, until he stood just inches from me. His presence filled the air, overwhelming, intoxicating. He leaned down slightly, his voice low enough that it felt like a caress against my skin. If you're lying to me, he whispered, you'll regret it. I shivered, caught between fear and something else, something I didn't want to name. Before I could respond, the door burst open. His assistant, pale and frantic, rushed inside. Sir, we've confirmed it. The leak came from the executive floor. Damian's eyes narrowed. Names. She faltered, glancing at me before answering. Not yet, sir, but we're close. The silence that followed was suffocating. Damian's gaze turned back to me, sharp as a blade. "You may go, Miss Hart." Dismissed, I stumbled from his office, my legs unsteady. But even as I returned to my desk, I knew his eyes were still on me, tracking me through the glass walls. By the end of the day, I couldn't take it anymore. I left the office quickly, clutching my bag like a lifeline, desperate for the safety of home. But when I reached my apartment, I froze. The chair I had wedged against the door the night before was no longer there. The door was locked, but the chair was neatly pushed back against the wall. Someone had been inside. My breath came in shallow gasps as I stepped inside, scanning every corner, every shadow. Nothing looked disturbed, nothing was missing. But the violation was clear. Someone had crossed into my space. Heart racing, I dropped onto the couch, burying my face in my hands. I couldn't do this anymore. The notes, the photos, the suspicion, it was suffocating me. My phone buzzed. With shaking hands, I lifted it. Another message. This time, only 2 words. "He knows." I nearly dropped the phone. But what made my blood run cold wasn't the message itself. It was the sound that followed. A sharp knock at my door. If you're still here, it means this story has captured your heart. Don't keep the magic to yourself. Hit subscribe, tap the bell so you'll never miss the next chapter, and share this with friends who love audiobooks as much as you do. Your support keeps these stories alive. Chapter 5. The Knock in the Dark. The knock echoed again. Sharp, measured, intentional. I froze in the center of my living room, my phone slipping from my fingers and landing silently on the rug. My heartbeat thundered in my ears. No one should be here. No one even knew where I lived except the leasing office and my boss. The thought sent a chill down my spine. Another knock, louder this time. I forced my trembling legs to move, inching toward the door. My hands shook so badly that when I reached for the chain, it rattled against the frame. "Who's there?" My voice was a whisper, weak and broken. Silence. Only the hum of the city outside. I swallowed hard, pressing my forehead to the door. Maybe it was nothing. Maybe it was just a neighbor. Maybe. The knock came again, firm, patient, almost knowing. I staggered back, my chest heaving. I couldn't open it. Whoever was on the other side wasn't here for a friendly visit. My phone buzzed again where it lay on the floor. With shaking hands, I picked it up. One new message. "Let him in." I dropped the phone. My blood ran cold. Whoever was sending these messages, whoever had been in my apartment, was watching me now. I backed away slowly, my mind racing, until my legs hit the couch and I collapsed onto it. My breathing was too loud, too frantic. Another knock. I covered my ears, rocking slightly, wishing it all away. But when I dared to look up, when I dared to glance at the peephole, the world tilted. Because standing there, framed in the fisheye glass, was Damian Blackwood, my boss. My tormentor, the man I couldn't escape. I staggered back, my heart slamming against my ribs. Why was he here? How did he find me? The knock came again. But this time, his voice followed. Low, smooth, dangerous. "Amelia, open the door." My knees nearly gave out. I pressed my back against the wall, clutching my chest as if I could slow the storm inside me. What would happen if I opened it? What would happen if I didn't? I tried to steady my voice. "Why are you here?" A pause. Then, "Because I need answers. And you're going to give them to me." The finality in his tone left no room for refusal. My hands trembled as I reached for the lock. My brain screamed at me to stop, to hide, to call for help. But something deeper, something irrational pushed me forward. With a shaky breath, I unlatched the chain and turned the knob. The door creaked open. And there he was. Damian Blackwood filled the doorway, his broad frame casting a shadow into my tiny apartment. His suit was immaculate, his tie loosened just slightly, as though even perfection could be unraveled by the day he'd had. But it was his eyes that froze me. Dark, sharp, unyielding. They pinned me in place as he stepped inside without asking permission. His presence swallowed the room whole, making my small apartment feel even smaller. I stumbled back as he closed the door behind him. "You shouldn't be here," I whispered. His gaze swept the room, slow and calculating, before settling back on me. And yet, here I am. He moved closer, every step deliberate, every inch shrinking the air between us. "Someone is feeding me lies, Miss Hart. Someone wants me to believe you're part of it. I want to hear it from your own lips. What is it you're hiding from me?" My chest heaved. "I'm not hiding anything. I don't know who's doing this. I swear." "Then explain this." He pulled something from his jacket pocket and tossed it onto my coffee table. A photograph. My blood froze. It was me again. This time leaving the office building, my eyes darting over my shoulder like I knew I was being followed. The same angle. The same shadowy distance. Whoever was behind this wanted him to see me as guilty. Tears burned my eyes. I didn't take that. I didn't even know. Then who did? His voice cut like a blade. "I don't know." My cry cracked through the room. He stared at me for a long, unbearable moment. Then, to my shock, he softened. Not much. Just slightly. "You're terrified," he murmured. I blinked at him, my breath uneven. "Because someone is ruining my life." His jaw tightened, his gaze unreadable. "Or saving it." The words twisted through me like smoke. What does that mean? He didn't answer. Instead, he stepped closer, so close I could feel the heat radiating off him. His hand lifted, brushing a stray lock of hair from my face. The gesture was startlingly gentle compared to his tone. But his next words shattered me. "If you've betrayed me, Amelia." His fingers trailed along my jaw, lingering just enough to make my pulse trip. "I won't just destroy your career. I'll destroy you." The threat coiled around my throat like a noose, and yet, God help me, my body trembled for a reason that had nothing to do with fear. Before I could speak, a sound split the room. A crash. From the kitchen, we both froze. Damien's hand dropped from my face as he turned sharply toward the noise. His eyes narrowed, dangerous. "Stay here," he ordered. But my legs carried me after him anyway, my fear too loud to obey. We reached the kitchen together, the air tight with silence. The window above the sink was cracked open, curtains fluttering in the night breeze. Damien moved like a predator, silent, controlled, dangerous as he pushed the window wider and peered into the alley below. "Nothing." When he turned back to me, his expression was darker than I'd ever seen. "They were here," he said. Not a guess, a certainty. My blood ran cold. Who was here?" My voice was barely a whisper. He studied me for a long moment, then said, "The person who wants me to believe you're mine to hunt." His words twisted my stomach, confusing, terrifying, yet anchoring me to him all the same. For a heartbeat, we stood there, the night breeze chilling the room, the silence screaming louder than words. And then, from the hallway outside my apartment, came another sound. Footsteps. Slow, heavy, deliberate. Damien's head snapped toward the door, his eyes sharp. His hand went to his jacket pocket. I clutched the counter, my pulse roaring in my ears. The footsteps stopped directly outside my apartment. And then, a low, mocking laugh, the kind that made my skin crawl. Chapter 6. Shadows Between Us. The mocking laugh outside my apartment door sliced through the silence like a knife. It was low, cruel, and deliberate, designed to make my skin crawl. I froze where I stood, my breath caught in my throat. Damien was only a few steps away, his body tense, every muscle coiled like a predator's. His sharp gaze shot to the door, then flicked to me, narrowing when he saw the terror etched across my face. Another sound followed, the faint scrape of a shoe against the hallway floor. Whoever it was wanted us to know they were there, watching, waiting. Damien moved first. He pressed a finger to his lips, commanding silence, and motioned me back. My legs felt like stone, but somehow I obeyed, retreating until my back pressed against the wall. He strode to the door, every movement measured, controlled, dangerous. He yanked it open in one swift motion only to reveal a hallway that was completely empty. The laugh had vanished into the night. I rushed forward, peering out past his shoulder, my heart hammering. The corridor stretched in both directions, dimly lit by flickering bulbs, but no one was there. They couldn't have gone far, I whispered. Damien's jaw tightened as he scanned the shadows. They're toying with us. Us. The word struck me in the chest like a spark. Somehow, in this twisted game, I wasn't alone. He stepped back inside, pulling me with him before shutting the door firmly behind us. He threw the lock, then turned, his dark eyes burning into mine. Someone is making this personal, he said, his voice low and unyielding. And until I find out who, you don't go anywhere alone. Do you understand? I bristled. You can't just order me around outside the office. He closed the distance between us in 2 strides, his presence overwhelming. When your safety is at stake, Amelia, I can and I will. My pulse quickened. His nearness made the air heavy, almost unbearable. His scent, a mixture of clean spice and danger, wrapped around me, weakening my resolve. I don't need your protection, I whispered, though even I didn't believe the words. He tilted his head slightly, studying me like he was peeling back the layers of my lies. You keep saying that, but your eyes tell me otherwise. I turned away, heat rising to my cheeks. He was right, damn him. I was terrified, and a part of me wanted to believe that only he could keep me safe. But there was something else, too, something dangerous, because beneath my fear was another feeling I couldn't fight. Desire. And standing this close to him, I couldn't tell which one consumed me more. Silence stretched between us, thick and heavy. Then, Damien stepped closer, so close I could feel his breath stir against my hair. Whoever's behind this, he murmured, his voice softer now, almost intimate. They want me to see you as a threat, but you... His eyes lowered, brushing against my lips before locking back onto mine. You're becoming something else entirely. My chest tightened. And what's that? His gaze lingered, burning. A sin I can't stop thinking about. The words sent a shiver through me. My knees felt weak, my body leaning unconsciously toward his. Every inch of me screamed to back away, to put space between us. But I didn't move. I couldn't. His hand lifted, hesitating in the air between us before brushing lightly against my cheek. My skin burned at his touch, a spark igniting a fire I'd tried so hard to smother. But before the moment could shatter into something irreversible, a sharp buzz from my phone on the coffee table jolted us apart. I rushed to it, my heart pounding for reasons that had nothing to do with the message waiting for me. It was from the same unknown number. You shouldn't trust him. My blood froze. I looked up at Damien, my lips parting, but no words came. He frowned when he saw the message on the screen. His jaw clenched as he took the phone from my hand, reading it with a darkness that unsettled me. Whoever this is, he said, his voice like steel. They want you to doubt me. And should I asked before I could stop myself. His eyes snapped to mine, piercing, unreadable. For a moment, I thought he might actually tell me the truth, strip away the mystery that wrapped around him like a second skin. Instead, he leaned closer, his voice barely above a whisper. Doubt me all you want, Amelia, but don't forget without me you won't survive this. The weight of his words left me trembling. That night, Damien refused to leave. He claimed it was for my safety, but the way his presence filled my small apartment made me question everything. We sat in silence for a while, the shadows thick around us, both pretending to ignore the tension that pulsed in the air. Eventually, exhaustion dragged at me. I excused myself and slipped into my bedroom, but sleep didn't come. Every creak, Every whisper of wind against the window had me on edge. And through it all, I couldn't shake the image of Damien, his hand on my skin, his voice confessing that I was his sin. Hours later, I must have drifted into restless dreams, because when I awoke, the first thing I saw was him. Damien sat in the chair by my bedroom door, his eyes half-lidded but alert, as if he hadn't slept at all, guarding me, watching me. For a fleeting, terrifying moment, I didn't know if I was safer with him here, or in more danger than ever. The morning light crept in, spilling gold across the floor. Damien finally stood, adjusting his tie, the image of control once more. "I'll have a car take you to the office," he said. "You're not walking alone again." I wanted to argue, to insist that I wasn't his responsibility, but the words wouldn't come. Deep down, I knew he was right. But as I gathered my things, I noticed something on the floor by the door. A slip of paper, folded neatly, small enough to have gone unnoticed. I bent to pick it up, my hands trembling. Slowly, I unfolded it. Scrawled across the page in jagged black ink were the words, "He can't save you. He'll destroy you first." The paper slipped from my fingers, fluttering to the floor. When I looked up, Damien was already watching me, his expression unreadable. And for the first time, I couldn't tell who I feared more, the stalker in the shadows, or the man standing right in front of me. Chapter 7. The Edge of Trust. The note lay at my feet, its words still burning into my mind. "He can't save you. He'll destroy you first." My fingers trembled as I picked it up again, staring at the jagged letters, each stroke carved with venom. Whoever left this knew me, knew him, knew us. Damien watched in silence, his tall frame leaning against the door frame, his expression carved in stone. I couldn't tell if he was angry, amused, or something darker. Finally, he spoke. "Where did you find that?" "On the floor," I whispered. "By the door. It must have been slipped under while we were—" my voice faltered, "while we were distracted." His eyes flickered just for a moment. Then the mask of control returned. He crossed the room and plucked the note from my hands, scanning it quickly before folding it with deliberate calm. "This changes nothing," he said flatly. "It changes everything," I shot back. My voice shook, but anger boiled beneath the fear. "Do you see what this says? Do you understand what it means? They're warning me about you, Damien. You, not some stranger in the shadows. You." He stepped closer, his presence suffocating, his dark eyes burning into mine. "Do you believe it?" The question sliced through me. I swallowed hard. I don't know what to believe anymore." His lips curved into something between a smile and a sneer. "Then I'll tell you what to believe. Believe that whoever wrote this wants you terrified. They want you to doubt me, to isolate yourself, to fall into their trap. Don't give them the satisfaction." "And what if it's not a trap?" I asked, my voice barely audible. "What if it's the truth?" For the first time, his control faltered, his eyes darkened, his jaw tightening as though he wrestled with something inside himself. He reached out suddenly, his hand gripping my chin, tilting my face toward him. "Do you really think I'd destroy you?" he murmured, his voice low, dangerous. The air between us crackled. My heart pounded, my body betraying me with the way it leaned into his touch, craving it even as my mind screamed against it. "I don't know what to think," I whispered. His thumb brushed my lower lip, a touch so subtle yet scorching. "Then stop thinking." Before I could react, the sound of shattering glass ripped through the apartment. I gasped, jerking away, my eyes darting toward the living room window. The curtain swayed in the cold breeze, shards of glass glittering on the floor beneath it. Damien moved instantly, his body shifting between me and the broken window. He drew something from inside his jacket, a sleek black pistol. My breath caught. I had never seen him with a weapon before. But somehow, it didn't surprise me. He scanned the shadows outside, every muscle taut, every line of his body screaming danger. "Stay behind me," he ordered. I wanted to protest, to tell him this was my home, my life, but the words died in my throat. Fear rooted me to the floor. A figure darted across the alley outside, quick and silent. Damien raised the gun, his eyes narrowing, but the shadow slipped out of sight before he could aim. "Damn it," he muttered under his breath. He turned back to me, his expression hard. "Pack a bag. You're not staying here tonight." "What? No, I can't just leave." "You don't have a choice." His tone left no room for argument. "They've crossed a line. You're coming with me." "With you?" My voice trembled. His gaze held mine, steady and unyielding. "It's the only way I can keep you alive." Something in his voice, firm, certain, terrifyingly sincere, left me breathless. Minutes later, I found myself in his car, my bag tossed carelessly in the back seat. The city lights blurred past as we drove in tense silence, the hum of the engine filling the space between us. Finally, I found the courage to speak. "Where are we going?" "My place," he said simply. My stomach tightened. Of all the places in the world, his home was the last I wanted to be, and yet, part of me needed to know what it looked like, what it felt like. The place where Damien Blackwood, the untouchable, lived when the office lights went dark. The drive felt endless, every second stretched taut with unspoken words. I stole glances at him, the way his strong hands gripped the wheel, the way his jaw tightened with focus. He looked every bit the man in control, but beneath it, I saw something else, something dangerous, something fragile. When we finally pulled up to a towering glass building in the heart of the city, I could only stare. Of course, Damien Blackwood lived in a penthouse at the top of the skyline. He guided me through the private lobby, up the elevator, and into his world. The moment the doors opened, I was struck by the sheer size of it, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the glittering city, sleek modern furniture in shades of steel and black, everything immaculate and sharp, just like him. This is where you live?" I breathed. He glanced at me, his expression unreadable. "Does it surprise you?" "Yes," I admitted, "and no." He set my bag down, then turned to face me fully. His dark eyes locked onto mine, and for a moment the city vanished. It was just us, standing in the quiet hum of his perfect, lonely world. "You'll stay here until I find them," he said. "You won't be alone again." The weight of his promise pressed down on me, equal parts comfort and cage. I turned away, walking to the windows, staring out at the glittering skyline. What if they're right, Damien? What if I can't trust you? His footsteps were silent behind me, but I felt him anyway, the heat of his presence, the gravity that pulled me toward him no matter how hard I tried to resist. "Then staying here," he murmured, his breath ghosting against my ear, "might be the most dangerous choice you've ever made." I closed my eyes, shivering. Every nerve in my body screamed to turn, to face him, to close the unbearable distance between us. And I almost did. But then, my phone buzzed again. I fumbled for it, my heart dropping as I read the new message. This time, there was no warning, no riddle, just 3 chilling words. "I'm already inside." The phone slipped from my hand, clattering to the floor. When I looked up, Damien was already moving, his gun drawn, his eyes scanning every corner of the penthouse. And for the first time, I realized if the stalker truly was inside, there was nowhere left to run. Chapter 8. Inside the Cage. The message replayed in my mind, each word echoing like a bell tolling the inevitable. I'm already inside. The phone lay on the floor, its screen casting a cold glow against the polished wood. My breath came shallow, my body rigid, my eyes darting to every corner of Damien's penthouse. Was it possible? Could someone truly be inside this fortress of glass and steel, a place that screamed untouchable? Damien didn't hesitate. His gun was already raised, his movements precise, each step measured as he began to sweep the room. "Stay close," he ordered, his voice low but lethal. My legs resisted, trembling, but something in his tone compelled me forward. I trailed him as he moved through the shadows, his tall figure sharp against the dim city light filtering in through the windows. The penthouse was silent, too silent. Every sound, the creak of the hardwood beneath our feet, the faint hum of the air conditioner felt amplified, like the world was holding its breath. We searched the living room first. Nothing. Then the kitchen, gleaming steel counters reflecting our tension. Empty. The hallway stretched before us like a throat swallowing the dark. Damien raised a hand, signaling me to stop. He moved ahead, his weapon trained forward, his body a wall of control. I clutched my arms around myself, watching as he opened the first door. A bedroom, empty. The second door, a study, shadows, bookshelves, silence. The third, the bathroom light flickered on. I gasped, stepping back. Damien lunged forward, slamming the door open with the force of a storm. But the room was empty. The light hummed above the spotless counter, the mirror reflecting only our pale, tense faces. "Damn it," he muttered under his breath, scanning every corner. "They're playing with us." I swallowed hard, my voice shaking. "Then, they're watching us. Right now." He turned to me, his eyes dark, sharp, and burning with something more dangerous than fear. "Then let them watch." Before I could respond, he reached forward, his free hand grabbing mine, pulling me flush against him. The gun stayed in his other hand, but his eyes locked onto me with an intensity that made the world blur. "You're trembling," he whispered. "But it's not just fear, is it?" My breath hitched, my body betrayed me, leaning into his heat, my pulse racing like a drumbeat under my skin. "No." The words slipped out, broken, shameful, desperate. His lips curved, dangerous and devastating. "Good, because neither of us is innocent anymore." And then his mouth crashed against mine. The kiss was fire-searing, consuming, inevitable. Every wall I had built shattered under the weight of it. My hands fisted in his shirt, pulling him closer even as my mind screamed that this was wrong, reckless, deadly. But in that moment, none of it mattered. The stalker, the danger, the warnings. All that mattered was Damien's mouth on mine, his hand in my hair, the taste of sin sweeter than anything I'd ever known. When he finally tore his lips from mine, his breath was ragged, his forehead pressed against mine. "I warned you," he growled softly. "I warned you what would happen if you stayed close. Enter tell you daring brings the queen miter area." My voice was barely a whisper, and I didn't listen. His gun lowered, forgotten, as his hand traced the line of my jaw, down to my throat. My pulse throbbed beneath his touch, wild and frantic. "You're mine now," he murmured, and it was both a promise and a threat. I shivered, caught between terror and longing. But then, a noise, a faint click, almost imperceptible, like a door easing shut. Both of us froze. Damien's eyes snapped open, his body jerking back into focus. The gun lifted instantly, his control slamming back into place. He grabbed my wrist, dragging me behind him, his body tense and lethal. The sound had come from the far side of the penthouse, his office. We crept down the hall, every step agonizingly slow, every nerve in my body screaming with anticipation. When we reached the door, Damien pressed me against the wall, his eyes locking onto mine. "Stay here." "No," I whispered, my voice shaking but firm. "I'm not staying behind." For a moment, something flickered in his gaze approval. Frustration, maybe both. Then he nodded once, quickly, before pushing the door open. The office was dark, shadows swallowing everything. And then, we saw it. On the desk, in the faint spill of moonlight, lay a single red rose. Its petals glistened as though freshly cut, its stem long and deliberate. Beside it, a note, scrawled in the same jagged hand as the first. Damien stepped forward, gun still raised, and snatched it up, his jaw clenched as he read. I moved closer, peering over his arm. The note was short, terrifyingly short. Even your cage won't keep her safe. My heart lurched, bile rising in my throat. The cage, his penthouse, his fortress, they had been here. Inside, leaving gifts, leaving warnings, slipping through shadows like smoke. Damien's hand tightened around the note until the paper crumpled. He turned to me, his voice low, dangerous, almost trembling. They're not afraid of me anymore. The thought hit me harder than the words themselves. Because if Damien Blackwood, powerful, untouchable, feared by everyone, was losing control, then what chance did I have? Before I could answer, the lights in the penthouse flickered. Once, twice, and then they went out. Darkness swallowed us whole. Chapter 9. When shadows strike, the lights died. Darkness swallowed us whole, thick and suffocating, as though the walls themselves had caved in around us. For a moment, silence reigned so sharp and absolute that I could hear nothing but the frantic pounding of my own heart. Then, faintly, from somewhere in the shadows, came the sound of breathing. Not mine, not Damien's. Someone else was here. Stay behind me, Damien hissed, his body pressing close as he pulled me back into the shelter of his frame. The steel of his gun brushed my arm, steady and unwavering even as the room drowned in black. A click echoed across the penthouse. A door? No lighter. Softer. The deliberate snap of a shoe against marble. They're here, I whispered. I know. His voice was calm, but it carried the sharp edge of a blade. Then everything erupted at once. The sound of movement, fast, agile, cut through the dark. Damien lunged forward, dragging me with him, his free hand fumbling against the wall until a faint red glow bathed the hall. The emergency lights had kicked in, painting everything in shadows and blood-colored streaks, and in that crimson glow, I saw it. A figure, tall and masked, darting down the far end of the penthouse. Damien! He didn't hesitate. He shoved me into the safety of a corner. Stay there! No, but he was already gone, charging after the intruder like a predator unleashed. My breath came in sharp gasps as I pressed myself against the wall, eyes straining to follow their movements. I could hear them, footsteps pounding, the crash of a chair knocked over, a grunt as Damien slammed into the stranger. The stalker fought back, hard. The struggle was vicious, their shadows colliding in the red gloom. A knife glinted in the intruder's hand, slashing dangerously close to Damien's face. Damien! I screamed. He caught the attacker's wrist, twisting with brutal force until the blade clattered to the ground. The stalker kicked out, connecting with his ribs, but Damien didn't falter. He drove the man backward, toward the glass wall that overlooked the glittering city below. For one terrifying second, I thought they would both crash through it. Then the stalker wrenched free, his mask slipping just enough for a flash of pale skin, dark eyes that locked with mine for a single chilling heartbeat. Recognition prickled in me, sharp and maddening. I knew those eyes. Somewhere, somehow, but before I could place it, the stalker lunged again. Damien caught him, shoving him down hard, his gun pressed against the man's temple. Who sent you? His voice was low, lethal. Say it now. The intruder only laughed. A hollow, distorted sound that made my skin crawl. Then, with sudden, shocking strength, he headbutted Damien, breaking free just long enough to dive for the balcony doors. Damien, stop him! I cried, scrambling to my feet. He fired once, twice. The bullets shattered glass, ricocheting with sparks. But the stalker was fast, slipping through the broken door, out into the night. By the time Damien reached the balcony, the intruder was gone, vanished into the city below like smoke on the wind. I stumbled toward him, clutching his arm. He was here. We saw him. We almost had him, Damien finished, his jaw tight, eyes blazing with fury. He kicked the shattered glass, his chest heaving. Damn it! I swallowed, my body trembling from the adrenaline still coursing through me. I saw his eyes. That made him stop. Slowly, he turned to face me. You what? My throat went dry. I don't know how, but I recognized them. I've seen him before, Damien. I know I have. For the first time since I'd met him, true fear flickered across his face. Not for himself, but for me. He cupped my cheek, his thumb brushing my skin. Think, hard. Where have you seen him? But before I could answer, a shrill sound pierced the night, the sound of my phone, vibrating across the floor where it had fallen earlier. I rushed to grab it, my heart in my throat. The screen glowed with a new message. So close, little dove, but even your protector can't save you forever. My hands shook. He's mocking us. Damien's hand closed over mine, steadying me, grounding me. His voice was low, controlled, but I could hear the storm raging beneath it. He's not mocking us. He's warning us. Warning us of what? I whispered. His eyes met mine, dark and haunted. That the next time he comes, he won't just leave a message. He'll take you. The air left my lungs, and in that silence, broken only by the sound of glass crunching under Damien's boots, I realized something with bone-deep certainty. This wasn't just a game anymore. The stalker wasn't circling us. He was closing in, and he wasn't going to stop until he had me. Chapter 10. The Mask Cracks. Next time he'll take you. Damien's words echoed in my head long after the silence returned to the penthouse. I sat frozen on the couch, gripping the blankets so tightly that my fingers ached. The rain outside slowed to a drizzle. But inside me, the storm only grew louder. Damien stood by the window, framed by the city lights. His shirt was open at the collar, his hair messy, his eyes sharp and unrelenting. You don't understand, I whispered, my voice barely holding together. This isn't just some sick game. He's been everywhere in my apartment, at the office, on streets I thought were safe. He knows things about me, things no stranger should. His jaw tightened. That's why I won't let you out of my sight. The way he said it made my chest ache. Possessive, fierce, dangerous. I didn't know what frightened me more, the stalker who haunted me, or the way Damien was becoming my anchor, my weakness, my sin. Hours passed, but sleep never came. Damien insisted I stay in the guest room, though I knew he wouldn't rest. He was a shadow pacing the penthouse, a predator waiting for the next strike. I lay beneath the covers, staring at the ceiling, listening to the hum of the city below. Every creak of the floorboards sounded like footsteps. Every memory of that distorted voice made my skin crawl. And then I heard it. Click. The sound of a lock sliding open. My breath caught, my heart slammed against my ribs. Damien, I whispered into the darkness. The door to my room flew open almost instantly, and there he was. Stay here, he ordered. No! I scrambled from the bed and grabbed his arm. Don't leave me alone. His eyes burned into mine. For a heartbeat, he looked like he wanted to force me back, but then he nodded once and pulled me close. Together, we crept toward the sound. The penthouse was swallowed in shadow. Only the faint glow of the city bled through the glass windows. I clung to Damien's sleeve as he reached for the hidden weapon by the door. Then another sound, a floorboard groaning. My chest tightened, my legs felt weak. And then I saw him, the figure. Tall, dressed in black, his face hidden behind that smooth, reflective mask. The stalker. Get behind me, Damien growled, pushing me gently back. But I couldn't move. I was frozen, staring. The figure tilted his head slowly, like a predator watching its prey, and then he spoke. You thought you could hide from me, Amelia? The sound of my name in that distorted voice sliced through me like a knife. Damien lunged forward, but the stalker slipped into the shadows, retreating. Stay here, Damien barked, giving chase. But my body betrayed me. I couldn't let him go alone, not when this was about me. My legs carried me forward before I even thought about it. The chase was chaos. Through the corridors, past the staircase, into the lounge. Damien was fast, but the stalker seemed to know every turn, every blind spot. And then suddenly the stalker shoved a chair into Damien's path. Damien tossed it aside with a curse, but I had already stumbled into the lounge. And there he was, right there, so close I could see the scratch along the edge of his mask. He turned toward me. My throat tightened. I couldn't breathe, couldn't scream. And then he spoke again. This time, the distortion cracked. Just for a second. Enough. I froze. I knew that voice. Not a stranger's, not some faceless monster. Someone I knew. Someone I trusted. No. The word slipped from my lips before I could stop it. Damien burst into the room. Amelia, get back! But I couldn't. My body shook as the truth clawed at me. I lifted a trembling hand, pointing. Damien, I gasped. Before I could say it, the stalker hurled something to the ground. A hiss of smoke filled the air, swallowing the room. I coughed, stumbled back, choking as the haze blinded me. Damien's arms wrapped around me, pulling me close, shielding me. By the time the smoke cleared, the figure was gone. Only silence remained, but I wasn't the same. Because now I knew. It wasn't just obsession. It was betrayal. The voice behind the mask belonged to someone I knew. Damien gripped my arms, forcing me to meet his eyes. Amelia, who was it? Tell me. I opened my mouth. The name sat heavy on my tongue. My lips trembled. But I couldn't say it. Not yet. Because once I spoke it aloud, nothing would ever be the same again. The stalker isn't a stranger. It's someone from Amelia's world, someone the audience doesn't know yet. I know the voice behind the mask, but saying it would destroy everything. If you've listened this far, then you already know this story has only just begun. Subscribe now to Lily's Romance Tales so you don't miss the shocking continuation. Who do you think the stalker is? Leave your guesses in the comments below. Because in love, and in sin, the ones closest to you can hurt you most.